So hi, my name's Tim Curtis. I'm Changemaker Campus leader here at the university, and this presentation is just an introduction for you to get an understanding of what Changemaker Campus is and how it fits with the rest of the university. I work for Ray Owen, who's the director of the University Centre for Employability Engagement, and a lot of our Changemaker activities is coming out of that. In 2010, the university set itself in its strategic plan, raising the bar, it set itself the target to be #1 in the UK for social enterprise, which is a great target to set because actually not very many other people were trying to do so, and there wasn't any metrics to do so. But we had to create a framework that allowed us to be able to demonstrate that we are #1. Part of that strategy was about delivering enhanced student experience, about developing entrepreneurial and innovative and enterprise skills within our graduates, and to deliver through social inclusion, in other words the sorts of students that we have at our university, and through processes of social innovation to help achieve a fairer and more inclusive society, the university having an impact upon its community. But not every graduate is going to start an enterprise. Actually, typically not very many people, a very small proportion of graduates actually go and start a business when after they've been at university. But everyone becomes an employee, everyone has the opportunity to make changes in their workplace, in their communities, in their families. So the theme of Changemaker is about being enterprising and innovative and entrepreneurial, but not always creating a social enterprise or even a business, but making changes to the businesses and to the organisations that we are a part of. And that's based on the idea that the impact that the University of Northampton has upon the local community and internationally, the impact that this university has is not just about the projects we do and the activities we do, but in the decisions our graduates make over their careers. If our graduates can make more pro-social and more ethically informed decisions in their careers, in their workplaces, in their schools, in their communities, then that is an impact that we have started and something that we can be proud of. In order to be #1 in the UK, we had to have somebody who would be able to validate what we do and to be able to demonstrate that we are genuinely #1 and genuinely very good at what we're trying to do in terms of making the world a better place. And Ashoka is a foundation that runs a program called Ashoka U, which is a consortium of 22 universities around the world who are committed to delivering the values, which I'll come on to in a moment, and supporting social innovation. Ashoka was created back in the 1980s by Bill Drayton, and he wanted to identify and find and champion and showcase people who looked at global social problems and looked at them in a new light and created new solutions. And it's great at university, we have lots of ideas and we look at social problems and do research about social problems, and we may talk about them with passion in the classroom, but as a university it's also good to take those solutions out into the real world and articulate those solutions with passion and communicate intelligently to get them implemented and to make changes. So Ashoka created a few years ago this consortium of universities around the world, Ivy League institutions, community colleges, major universities like San Diego, like Arizona State University, like Tulane, and universities in Canada and Latin America and increasingly in Asia. And we are the first and only, at the time I speak, the first and only UK campus that has been validated by this consortium for the breadth and depth of our commitment to social change and social justice. So this is not just about having a centre for this or a centre for social enterprise or some academics doing some research on it. This is about the whole institution, the way in which every part of the University of Northampton makes a contribution to social change. I spoke earlier about the values that are supported, and values of Ashoka, the Changemaker values. And this comes from the basic idea that everyone can be a changemaker. We don't have to be superheroes or special people. Everyone has an opportunity to make small or large changes in the society and communities around them. The starting point is that we believe that we have a responsibility to make positive changes in society. We also believe that we have the power and resources, the tangible things that you can touch, the things that you can't touch, that make a difference. Sometimes that's money, sometimes that's knowledge or influence. We have those because we are at universities. Our undergraduates are the top 3% of the world in tertiary education. They are at a university and therefore have connections to information, to research, to people who have resources, and therefore they are in a position to make those changes. We then encourage our undergraduates to take initiative to bring about innovative change, local change in front of them, in their community, in their street, but maybe also systemic change, bigger changes that impact upon the way in which the world works. We encourage them to work with others in teams, in groups, in networks, to maximise the impact, so that we're not just working on our own, but that we're delivering a much bigger impact because we're affecting more people. We also want our students to know and live authentically according to their values. So every student has the opportunity to explore what do they value in life and how does a successful world work for them. And finally, and probably underpinning all of that, is this notion of empathy, to practice empathy rather than sympathy. To sympathise with someone is to feel sorry for them, but to empathise with somebody is to enter into their world, to look at the world from their shoes, and to make changes and work with them from their perspective. In other words, meeting them where they're at rather than changing them from a distance, going out and being with them and changing them and changing with them. Here's some examples from Ashoka's fellows. There are 3,000 fellows around the world, so I can't have time to speak to you about all of them. But look at Mark's work with user voice, realising that only offenders can stop reoffending. And when an offender is in jail, they're often required to be quiet and silent and to be compliant. What he wants to do and what he's doing in prisons around the UK is to give a constructive voice to those offenders, so they can be involved in creating policy around prisons and their move out of prisons, changing the nature of relationship between an offender and the governor of that prison, changing the way in which the rules work, and changing the impact upon society as offenders take control of their own lives. Another example is Shawnee, dealing with the way in which the legal system treats young offenders by punishing them and stigmatising them, and using this as an opportunity, these times, these spaces, to actually train people, train practitioners, legal practitioners, and to boost the role and boost the opportunities for young people in those legal systems. Or Karen, who's working through Women Like Us, finding that women and men who have to stay at home to look after their children are often excluded from the workplace, and if they are part of the workplace, it's low-value, part-time employment. And she's worked to increase the value that part-time work allow for increasing the value of part-time work, so that people who are working from home feel that their work is valuable and employers feel that their work is valuable. So we talk about some of the changes, some of the words and examples and terms that we use in this space. So if we start with the open circle at the top, change making is the broad umbrella that pulls together all of these words underneath. And in the centre is social enterprise, and right at the core of what we do is Inspire to Enterprise, which is a service that we provide nationally from the University of Northampton to support people to start enterprises and start social enterprises and to grow them and to attract funding, attract finance, investment, but also compete and win contracts. So at the core of this is the opportunity to start a social enterprise, to start a business that has a social impact. But we can't do much of that until we've got a lot of change making going on. So we want to make sure that all 14,000 plus of our students are engaged with change making, coming up with ideas, developing through processes called social innovation to spot social problems, analyse those social problems and do something about them. Those are processes of social innovation. And as those processes of social innovation and design and creativity turn into something that's more formal, into an organisation, those are the processes of social entrepreneurship. These are processes that might lead to a social enterprise, actually an organisation at the end that does trading and has economics and has employees and does things. But some change making could be a change of policy, it could be a revolution, it could be a change of the rules, the way in which people behave. Lots of different things constitute change making. If we look around from the right hand side of the slide to the left, we can see examples of change making going on in the university. Homework Hub, for example, created by Abigail Ehoff, one of my students in the business school, with Jill Gortley. She spotted that her mum was struggling to help her brother with homework, so she put together a website that allowed mum and her brother and the school to communicate with each other around their homework. Simple thing. Abby's graduated and gone on to work for a big national organisation, and she's hoping to develop that. A different approach is Friends of Cable, also started by one of my students. This student discovered their mum had suffered from a cot death, and her mum had lost a baby, but she hadn't planned for a funeral. She couldn't afford a headstone for the baby who sadly died, and so she's gone away in her volunteering module to create a charity that raises money for headstones for babies that have died just after birth. And she worked with students in the class and other volunteers to raise money, and she's thinking about whether she can make that a national rather than just a local activity. Payday loans is another example of a big social issue facing students as they struggle with their finances, where they often don't get paid by student loans or by other organisations, and they might fall into debt. And loan sharks and other high cost loans are being offered to students where they might have to pay 2,500, 2,700% interest on a small amount of money. The university with students has set up a credit union on the campus, the only one in the UK that has a credit union. So staff and students could save into that and then borrow money from that at 12% per year, in other words 1% a month, rather than 2,000% per year. Opportunity for us to improve the economic and financial life of our students. And the one at the bottom is a dialogue cafe. It's a way of communicating free between community organisations around the world. A good example of how this works is that doctors in Ramallah in Palestine were struggling with an intervention over an operation for a young girl, and we were able to connect them through the Dialogue Cafe to doctors in Ohio State University who advised them, and the operation went happily. On the left hand side are enterprises, social enterprises that are created. You might have seen Uno, it's our bus company, and what that opportunity is, that we are able to have control over how we provide a service to our students, and we're also able to make a pretty decent profit out of that, and we can use that profit for scholarships and other social activities. It also gives us the opportunity to decide that if we have people who could come to university from a part of a town that's not supported by a bus route, and they're excluded from the university because there's no bus, we could actually choose to put a bus route in there, because the private sector would say there's not enough profit in it, whereas we could say, well, we want to do it because it's a good thing to do, and we can do it so economically. That's something we do. Goodwill Solutions is a social enterprise that we have invested in. As a university, we have invested in an organisation that was created between myself and a colleague, Mike Britton, who runs Goodwill Solutions. And it's a relatively simple business model where he runs a logistics company and takes furniture that is otherwise being thrown away by big furniture manufacturing and selling organisations, and refurbishes them and turns them into very low cost furniture to go out to people who are homeless and to people who can't afford to buy very expensive household furniture. More than that, Goodwill Solutions offers the opportunity to young people who have criminal records to get on the job ladder and get that first chance, even though most employers would not touch them because of their criminal record. Goodwill Solutions exists in order to create those opportunities. Cocoa Careers, and Bag in Bag are also a couple that you'll have to go to our Changemaker website to find out more about. In 2013 we did some research from the School of Health students to find out what they knew about social enterprise, and we were surprised that a good proportion, 69% of the students had actually heard of social enterprise and heard it first here at the University of Northampton. They didn't really know what it meant, didn't really know what a social enterprise is. So part of this Changemaker Campus Resource Centre is to help explain what a social enterprise is and how it relates to changemakers. But when we ask them the question, how do you think the world becomes a better place, a large proportion, 85%, think that changes in law and policy solve social problems, and many think, 65% of them think that communities change society, whereas only 27% of them think that business has an opportunity, a role to play in changing society. And we need to speak to that understanding. We need to be able to talk not just about enterprise, but also about social change, how laws, policies and communities change societies, but also help them to understand how businesses can also be a part of the solution rather than a problem. And the feedback we got was that the students wanted to be part of and to work with other students that have entrepreneurial skills to develop their skills. So we've learned from that and built this Changemaker framework around it. We've also had a lot of support from the Students' Union, very much getting on board with a £250,000 project called Sustainability Changemakers, focusing on environmental sustainability, reducing the impact that landlords have upon the environment and the cost of heating, for example, switching energy off and making sure that the buildings that our students live in across the whole of the town are more environmentally friendly, but also supporting students into environmental businesses and into the environmental industry. So there's a suite of projects that we'll be seeing more about over the next year into 2013-14. So finally, to the Changemaker certificate. This is part of this resource centre. Lots of ideas for you to take away from this resource centre, but you might have spotted a social problem, or you might be working with some students that are researching a social problem. They've done their assignment and now they want to do something with it, or you want to do something with it. And the Changemaker certificate is a free opportunity for students and staff to get involved in an online learning process, working through these 7 units at bronze, silver or gold, or even platinum at postgraduate level, to do some research, to build up your skills and to deliver a project. So this is specifically designed for you to be able to plan your way from an idea to delivering a venture. Starting off with understanding all the terms and words that I've used, and more what is entrepreneurship and what is innovation, how does society change. The second unit then is about understanding who you are, your personal assets, your skills, resources, your empathy, for example. That connects to the Student Union's Change Me campaign. There's also, we need to understand society, we need to understand social problems, how they work, why do social problems come about. And we can do that through voluntary action, through proper scientific research, through our employment or an experience. We also then need to understand the problem itself and how do we solve problems. Typically, many people tackle problems, but they often tackle little bits of a problem, or they might be tackling what they think is the real problem, but isn't, and therefore they end up doing a lot of work which has no effect. So we need to know we're solving the right problem, we need to know we understand how the problem works, and therefore we need to be creative around and make clear and careful decisions around how to solve that problem. So there's a bunch of resources around decision making, creativity and innovation. And then we get on to the planning bit. I've used the word venture here because it could be a change of policy, it could be a demonstration, it could be a gig, it could be a new business, it could be anything, something that makes a change in the world. And we have to go through planning processes and campaigning to make sure that everyone knows about it. So there's some resources there. And then we start and sustain the venture. We need money. Every venture needs money to sustain. We need to know how that's going to be created, how we govern it, how we make sure that it's being done well, and also making sure that everyone knows what that idea is and what it is you're doing to change the world. And then finally, a module, a unit around communicating, the marketing, the media, your own personal and the organisational branding. This is available for you to start at any time. For students, they could start in their first year or they could start in their third year. and they will peer review their work, the portfolio of activities, and judge whether it meets bronze, silver or gold. And then when the student graduates, they get their BA in whatever they've studied, and they'll also get a University of Northampton Changemaker certificate at bronze, silver or gold level. And that is a clear and rigorous way of demonstrating to their future employers that they've not just spent 3 or 4 years studying, but they've spent that time turning the study into action, into problem solving, into creativity, into innovation and venture planning. Key employability skills. So hopefully that's interested you. Go and find more information from www.northampton.ac.uk/changemaker. Or if you get lost, go to the NILE site, the Northampton Integrated Learning Environment, and press on the Ashoka button right in the middle of that, and you'll get to the Resource Centre. Thanks for listening.